As someone who has worked in marketing, fire your team. Fire your marketing department and whomever approved this. Literally the worst promotional film I've ever watched. Marketing guy, what should we do next? CEO, just waste more money and time for everyone. Marketing guy, sure. Masterpiece of a lesson on how marketing is not done. When you're marketing a new product, these are probably not the kinds of reactions you want to receive from potential customers. But that's exactly what's happened with Neural DSP with their new marketing for the new release of the Cortex Nano. See, traditionally, guitar-based marketing is rather straightforward. It's a product release of a product that's either readily available or pre-order. There's a press release, there's videos released about the product, and that's kind of it. But there's a company that does things a little bit differently. Neural DSP. They originally specialized in just software, making guitar plugins, and their marketing strategy was always just a little bit different. They focused on building hype before the product release, normally with teasers, posts that were almost always silhouettes of the product entitled Soon, Sooner, and Tomorrow. And these product teasers lasted 3 days, giving just enough away for building speculation and overall hype of what the new product was going to be. And it worked well. It did build hype and speculation on what these new products was going to be and got people talking about it. It was good marketing that was effective, and it made the company millions. Now, in January of 2020, Neural shifted from being just a software company and dipped their toe into hardware, releasing their first ever hardware unit, the Quad Cortex. Touting impressive specs and even more impressive features promised, it was no wonder that this unit was the talk of the town that year at NAMM, and in fact it even won awards, and within 2 days of the announcement it had already sold out 1,000 pre-orders, meaning that Neural had to open up another block of pre-orders. However, since then things haven't been plain sailing for Neural DSP or their Quad Cortex. Announced in January 2020, it got off to a rocky and delayed start due to the pandemic. And the unit that was released in 2021 was somewhat sparse on the features promised to the thousands that pre-ordered. One of the big features promised was the ability to use the Neural DSP plugins on the hardware unit, a feature that made a lot of sense for a primarily software plugin company. But that feature didn't exist. And the answers that Neural DSP gave to customers wanting to know a timeline on when these promised features would be delivered is what I believe has soured their current marketing. People would ask when plug-in capabilities would be available on the Quad Cortex, and they'd be given the Neural DSP trademark soon. And while this is playful in the beginning, it stops being playful when soon isn't soon. Now, I get that soon isn't a particularly accurate measurement of time, and it could be interpreted in different ways, but most people wouldn't interpret soon as several years. And that's exactly what happened. And even now, features like plug-in capabilities on the Quad Cortex aren't even fully developed yet. It was mentioned in the sales pitch in January of 2020, and it's only partially delivered in July of 2024. That's 4.5 years later, and it only works with 2 out of Neural's 20 plugins. And that's just the thing. What was once a playful tease has become almost a self-deprecating parody on Neural's inability to deliver features on time or at all. And that's where we get into just a few days ago, when Neural sent out an email to its customers talking about a big announcement. There was a link to a YouTube video entitled Soon, a lot of hype, and it disappointed a lot of people. Thousands tuned in expecting to see a product launch, and instead were met with a 24-minute long amateur semi-fictional film about nothing. In the film, we're introduced to George Lever, who is a real person. He's an engineer and producer. In the movie, George is tasked by Dan at Neural DSP to record a song with this new product on a tight deadline. And if that was set in reality and recorded like a documentary, that doesn't sound too bad. But it's not. It actually ends up feeling a bit more like an unfunny Hot Fuzz mixed in with an episode of Friends without a laugh track. That's the best way I could describe this film. So George must record this song in time or Dan will kill him. Those are the stakes that we're dealing with. And George has delivered a package. It's a case that he can't open. He enlists his friend James to help. They can't open it. And then Rabia Assad shows up playing himself / the Terminator?
You alright, mate?
Has it arrived?
Is it arrived?
Voice calibration complete.
The package.
The package. The package?
Did I stutter?
And then they record part of this song with what seems to be a quad cortex. But wait, there's a twist. It turns out that the unit that was sent to them wasn't the right one, and the real one is in Los Angeles, California.
And you tell me where you are, because I need to come and get that from you.
Totally. Well, I'm right here.
And where is here?
Of course, I always forget that people can't see me when I point.
Dude.
Sorry. I'm in LA.
Did he just say LA?
So that's the first 24-minute video. A teaser which teases nothing, a story that accomplishes nothing, but then again there were coffee-making montages, so there's that. The second episode, entitled Sooner, is almost an exact mirror of the first. They get their new product in Los Angeles that you don't get to see, they record with a guest, but oh no, it's stolen at the end.
It's more a case of what's not in the box.
James, what's in the box?
And then finally the third episode tomorrow is equally as riveting, where they get the unit back, they record with a guest, and that's pretty much it.
You want to see the launch ad?
The what?
The main video for the Nano Cortex.
How do you have an advert when the prototype is right here?
Mate, it's all CGI. It's been finished since you sent me the last mix. What the shit?
My thoughts exactly. And again, if it was actually reality, it probably wouldn't have been that bad to watch. In fact, dare I say it, might have been entertaining. But watching musicians roleplay as actors up against non-existent problems with zero stakes really isn't all that entertaining. And certainly not nearly 70 minutes worth of entertainment. Where I think the real entertainment comes from was the comments section of these videos, with gems like, "On today's episode of The Marketing Director is currently being waterboarded. Fractal user here, we have gotten 2 firmware updates since the start of this video. We got a feature-length film before we got full plug-in compatibility. They take turns smelling their own farts at Neural HQ." So here's the thing, this video is primarily about Neural's marketing. I think that if Neural were in a stronger position of trust with their customer base, this wouldn't have backfired nearly as much as it did. And yes, the teaser videos would still be just as bad as they are, and they would have accomplished as much, pretty much nothing. I do feel as if they would have been looked on a lot more lightheartedly, probably as intended, as a joke. But as it stands, with Neural's ability to deliver on promised features, or at least their speed to deliver on promised features rivaling continental drift, it's hard to view this full-length feature film with absolutely zero payoff to the viewer as time well spent on both Neural or the viewer's behalf. And I know there's going to be people in the comment section here, there were in the Neural stuff, saying, haha, they got you though. It's great marketing because you're talking about it. And while that is a form of marketing, negative press, it's a thing, it tends to work best for notoriety, for fame, not for selling product, especially when it seems to be just pissing off customers. That's not how you make sales. When it comes to selling products, you want your customers talking about it and for the right reason. We're not talking about the product, we're talking about how poor the marketing is. And it's also clear to see that these videos did have an impact on lessening people's overall interest. The first video was viewed 53,000 times. The second video was viewed 13,000 times. And the third video was viewed 11,000 times. Now that is a significant drop off from the first video to the second video. And after the first video was released and received so much backlash, there was a leak of what the new product was going to be like. And I must say it was a very well timed leak to get some of the discourse off how bad the cinematic masterpieces were. I truly believe that this is up there with some of the worst guitar marketing I've seen. I think the only thing that outdoes it in form of backlash was when Gibson released the Play Authentic video and angered pretty much everybody. But Neural DSP gave it a good shot. Well, they annoyed a lot of people. It was bad. Okay, so there's a little bit of an update. The unit itself has been released. And I've watched the promo video, I've watched a couple of the demo videos, because they did the classic spam YouTube with everybody's videos on the same day, and they all call it a game changer because, you know, everything new is a game changer even though it's not. And the point though is that this is the unit. This is the Nano Cortex. It's a small form factor unit similar to a Line 6 HX Stomp, I suppose, in form factor. It's retailing for $549 in the US. And I've paid attention to the overall reception of this unit from customers and potential customers. And I have to say, it's not all been positive. In fact, it's actually, there's still quite a lot of backlash. Let's take a look at the unit itself, or maybe more so the marketing for the unit. Nano Cortex, an infinite number of amps and pedals on your pedal board. Quite the claim already, to be honest, like infinite amount. Now, let's be real, we know that infinite means endless, and we know that it's not endless. But even with a willing suspension of disbelief about it not being infinite, I have to say that tagline, it paints a much different picture than what the unit specs actually do. So let's take a look at the unit specs. The Nano Cortex has 7 blocks. And this is a fixed signal chain. That, to be clear here, that means that we can't move any of these blocks. The order that they're in is the order. And what you've got is you've got a gate, you've got a transpose, which allows you to change tuning digitally on the guitar. You've got a neural capture, which can capture a drive, it can capture an amp, or it can capture a drive on with an amp. But you've only got one capture slot, so you have to pick what you want there. There's no standalone drive in this unit, which is rather unusual. They have an IR loader, they have a modulation, they're calling it modulation here, but it is actually just chorus. They have a delay, and they have a reverb. And to be clear here, you can't switch anything here. It's a fixed signal chain. You can't move anything. What's there is there, and also what's there is not a lot, especially when it comes to the effects. The post effects include chorus, not multiple different choruses, just one high quality emulation of a Boss DC to Waza. The analog delay is one vintage delay replication of a Bucket Brigade style echo, and the reverb is a emulation of a Lexicon 224. That is it. There is nothing else there. It's very limited. So, you know, when we're talking about infinite amounts, this is quite the opposite. This is very finite. It's almost the definition of finite. You've got like 3 effects. 4 if you're including transpose. But 4 is not infinite. So I suppose we could assume that the infinite, what we're talking about is the captures, which is captures of drive pedals. You can't capture anything else. But even then, 256 captures is not infinite, it's 256. You can't put a number on infinite. I'm not a particularly big fan of that tagline. I just find it a little bit misleading in comparison to what the actual unit can do. Because if we're talking about captures being infinite, then Tonex should be calling themselves infinite amps and drives, and Headrush, who also capture things, that's infinite. And I don't know, maybe the Kemper player, is that infinite as well? Once we start talking about that, like it's not a great tagline, to be quite frank with you. Secondary, I'll point out something that I haven't seen anyone point out. To capture on this unit, there is a combo jack on the side of the unit, the right side of the unit specifically, for a XLR to mic up a cabinet and get your capture. Look at the size of how far that XLR sticks out when it's connected to the unit itself there. That's quite a bit. I mean, an XLR itself isn't a small jack. You know, you can get flat ones, but as a standard one, it's not particularly tiny. And also you have to consider that the cable will be sticking out as well, at least a little bit. So you have to have that much space for the XLR. Now, when are you going to use this unit? It seems to be designed kind of for a pedal board. At least that's the tagline. So if you're going to use it with pedals, you're probably going to put this at the end of the chain. It is, after all, an amp capturer, I guess. You're going to put it at the end. And if you look at this here, this is Anderton's put it on a board to demo. And this is exactly where you'd put it on a board. You'd put it at the end, which is always on the left side. As it stands, you wouldn't be able to capture anything with this unit because the pedals are far too close. You'd need to have at least the space of another pedal between the Nano and another pedal to get your XLR in. It just seems crazy to me that they didn't put that combo jack on the other side of the pedal. It's not like anything else is there to get in its way. It would make so much sense to have it on that side, because then you could just have your XLR off the side of the board, off most boards. It just seems like it wasn't thought out particularly well. It's just a strange thing to see. But I want to also talk about just the reception that this has received, because yes, it's not perfect, and it kind of, to me, it's hard to see where this fits in the market. Is it a more expensive Tonex? Is it a cheaper HX Stomp but with significantly less flexibility? Like, what's the draw to this specific unit? Who's it for? I don't know. But looking at just the overall reaction, it's not all been positive. Even looking at Neural DSP's owned and controlled subreddit, you'd be hard pressed to get a positive opinion on this. There are the general consensus is that it's not all that great. Lol, all that build up for this? Those 3 movies fully reflect feelings about this device, to be honest. If this was a HX Stomp version of the QC, then I might be into it, but the fact that it's only captures for $550 just boggles me. Should have had the modeling rather than the captures. Neural have shit the bed here. All their paid advertisers making out it's the best thing since sliced bread, and their soon marketing has really topped it off. It's a $300 pedal that competes with $180 pedals, but they want $550 for it. And then if you look at some of the promotional videos, the biggest and most popular one at the moment has been done by Andertons. The comments are not all that positive on it either. And it does make me wonder, is this negative feeling from people somewhat an overlap from the way they felt after the initial marketing push? It's hard to tell, and we'll never know for certain, but funny enough, I looked at one of the comments and it wasn't even just me that was thinking the same thing. The marketing is what tanked this release, if you ask me. As an entry-level unit, I'm interested, but after 3 days of winding up customers with irrelevant, annoying videos, no wonder everyone is looking for reasons to hate it. Now those problems have been pointed out, I'm sure we're all becoming more dubious of the Nano Cortex. I'm gonna sit tight and wait for more reviews to come in, but Neural do seem to have done all they could to engineer a bad release for their own product. And I know that it's not going to be for everybody, right? Probably the most divisive thing is that you have to use your phone with it. And a lot of people don't like that for longevity purposes, and I get that. It's not for everyone, and it's also maybe a little bit weird that they put USB-C on this, which is good, but you can't control it via a laptop or just a desktop in general, which is weird because they've got, like, their marketing is the unit on a desktop, but you would have to pull out your phone in this situation to actually control the device instead of just connecting it to your computer and using it like how you could control the Quad Cortex. I don't really know what the unit itself is supposed to be, other than what all the YouTubers say, which is a game changer. But what I do know is that this has almost been a masterclass in how not to market a product, because when you put a bad taste in someone's mouth before the product even arrives, it's hard to win them over with it. And especially when the product isn't, how could I put this, isn't the best it could possibly be. It's not defeating anything hands down from the get-go, at least not on paper, that is. So anyway, that's my video. Thank you for watching. Subscribo, like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you next time, maybe. Bye bye.